Hello, and welcome back to Record of the Ear, the podcast where I talk about whatever album I'm listening to that week and shout my opinions into the void because none of my friends want to talk about it with me. I'm your host, Ryan Lark, and this week's Record of the Ear is, drumroll please, Meaning of Life by Kelly Clarkson. Yes, this means it's the first album that is not a country or folk album and is by America's sweetheart, the one and only Kelly Clarkson. Now, I chose this album because it's a really special album for her specifically because it marks her first album after she signed the contract from American Idol with RCA Records, which dictated every album she released. Her first 7 albums had to be pop vocal albums, which kind of restricted her freedom and whatnot. And now that she's signed with Atlantic Records, she's able to do basically whatever she wants, which makes this album the most personal album she's ever released, honestly. I mean, she's written the songs before on her albums, but now she's able to do it with a newfound freedom. And you really get to see her roots that we kind of heard from her original season on American Idol, where she was a lot more soulful and a lot less poppy. So a little bit about the album. It is a pop, soul, and R&B record. Again, it's her 8th studio album, released in October of 2017. So it's a few years old now. It's got 14 tracks on it, about 45 minutes long. The 3 singles on it, again, only 3, Mickey Yaitin, red flag here, 3 singles on a 14-track album. Love So Soft, I Don't Think About You, and Heat, which she's later re-released in a remix, which is a little bit more upbeat and fun. But the album itself made 7 year-end publication lists, including BBC's Best Albums of 2017 and Billboard's 50 Best Albums of 2017. It reached number 2 on the Billboard Top 200 charts, and it received 2 Grammy nominations. Didn't win either of them, but was nominated for Best Pop Vocal Album, and Love So Soft was nominated for Best Pop Solo Performance. Now, something interesting about this album, with Kelly being, aside from a phenomenal vocalist, an exceptional songwriter, she usually writes more on her albums, but she's only written 4 of the tracks on this album, which I found a little interesting. Not sure why that is. She did decide to bring in a bunch of other writers to kind of help out with this album. So there's a lot of other writers on this album that we'll get into. Now, before we get into any of the tracks of the album, I want to just remind you guys to go ahead and listen to the album beforehand if you'd like, or go track by track with me. I think it just helps out, lets you know what I'm talking about as I go through it. All right, so let's just get into the tracks. So the first track on the album is called A Minute, and it's the intro to the albums. It's not really a full track, and it's written by Andre Davidson, Sean Davidson, Jim McCormick, and Katie Pearlman. It's literally a minute long, which is kind of funny, but it's basically what I would think is she's talking about how she needs some downtime for herself. She needs a minute to just breathe and just have a second away from whatever's going on in her life. To me, this is kind of the step back and intro to the album where everything else is where she's processing things in her head. So everything else is like kind of a peek into her mind, if that makes sense. So I think it's a really neat way to introduce it, to make it more personal, to make it more interesting. And I just think it's great. I'm not going to rate it because it is an intro. It's only a minute long and there's like 5 lyrics on it. So it's not really worth doing. I won't do intros in the future either. So technically, I'll only be reviewing 13 tracks on the album. The second track on the album is called Love So Soft, and it was written by Jesse Shatkin, Priscilla Renee, Maureen Mozella McDonald. This is a great start to the album, I guess, second start. It's a really upbeat song about love and sex. It's about an empowered woman who knows exactly what she's worth, and she's not going to take less, and she's letting whoever the person that she is wanting to be with know that. It's right off the bat, it's immediately different than anything she's ever done before. It's fun, it's catchy, it's so amazing how her vocals just are shown off in this song. This transcends almost anything she's ever done before vocally, I feel. Obviously, she's a belter. She loves those big riffs, but this just shows off her vocals better than I think anything she's ever done before. And it's just fun and catchy, and it makes you like want to move, but it also has like a really empowering message, which she's known for. I mean, she's done Stronger. This is nothing different than she's done before, lyrically maybe, but it's definitely just got a lot more mature, and in the best way possible, mature. That's not a negative message. That just, again, is really pertinent and shows how much she's grown as a person throughout her life. So I'm definitely going to have to give the recording for sure, honestly, probably 10. Like, I just think that's a spectacular song. And then songwriting, I'll probably give it an 8. I think it's really well written. It's a really good message. It's a really interesting message. It fits her really nicely, but it's not really a unique message. I guess everyone does the same messages over and over again. So maybe that's not fair to say, even though I say it a lot. But it's definitely a good, well-written song. So I'll probably give it an 8, yeah. The third track on the album is called Heat, and is the third single from the album, written by Andre Davidson, Shaw Davidson, Jessica Karpov, and Michael Pollack, and Mick Schultz. It's a really good follow-up from Love So Soft. It's about not getting what she wants from a relationship and demanding better, or else she's just going to leave and move on, which makes sense following the trajectory of the album. Good placement, very good placement by her / the recording of it. This song is a wonderful vehicle for Kelly because it does get repetitive, but just when you start to think, okay, it's getting a little repetitive, it's getting a little boring, she's able to like do something very different and show off her vocals. She makes it different and interesting, at least vocally. The lyrics are the same, but she starts riffing, she starts going off. So you're like wrapped right back into it, and it's not boring anymore before it even gets boring, really. So, and maybe the writing isn't so special from it. Not that it's bad writing, but it just, like, if this was anyone else singing it, I feel like it would be a boring song. But because it's her and she knows how to keep making it interesting, and she's having fun with it, you can tell. You're still captured in the song, and you're still paying attention and enjoying it. So for that reason, I'll have to give songwriting probably about a 6. It just wasn't anything special, but I think that was the point, is to really show off her vocal ability in this. So again, taking a back seat to show off her and engage her vocals with the audience. And I would probably give the recording an 8. The fourth track on the album is called Meaning of Life, the title track, and it was written by Jesse Shatkin, Ilse Juber, that's probably butchering that, James Morrison Catchpole. It's a love song about finally finding the right person and everything feeling so right when that happens. And while this might not be the most intricately written song, you can really feel the passion through her vocals. It's a very passionate song. It's a very emotional song for her. It's a bit long. It's like almost 4 minutes long, but again, it's not boring at all. It shows off her vocals phenomenally. She's doing tons of riffs, keeping it interesting, but it's not like excessive where some, like, kind of, no offense to Christina Aguilera, where it's almost too much. It's just the right amount, which I think Kelly, again, is very good at, knowing when's too much and trimming things down, so it's not excessive and kind of like, okay, we get it. But yeah, I just really enjoy the song. I think it captures the message of the album, and really, again, shows off her vocals nicely. The writing isn't spectacular, but what she really does here is brings the vocals to uplift the words off the page and really drive them home to you. So for that reason, I'll probably give it a probably a 7 for songwriting and again 8 for recording. The fifth track on the album is called Move You, written by Nick Ruth, Amy Cooney, and Molly Kay Kestner. This song is all about wanting to be important to someone and wanting that person to feel really deeply about them. It's got tons of imagery in it. Like, you can picture every single line in your head very clearly. It's very slow and soulful and has a major gospel feel. You can almost like picture yourself in a church hearing this song, honestly. It's got that choir background, singing along with her. Also, one thing that's really funny that I just like over the years thought was so weird is when an artist is singing in a recorded track over them singing something else, which happens in the song a couple of times, where she'll like start belting, but she's still singing like a different lyric. Does that make sense? I just find that so funny because there's no way you could ever replicate that, at least in person. It's just so weird without like having a track playing behind you. It's just so funny to me. I don't know why people do that. I guess it's an interesting flair, but it's never been something I enjoyed. I think it's just a very weird thing that artists do for some reason. Not that it's like sounds bad here. It just like is like, oh, well, obviously this is recording, which I guess obviously it is. But when I listen to it, I don't think that I'm not listening to it wanting to know that it's a recording. I want to like be present in the song, and that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. I think the songwriting's is really good here. I'll probably give it like a 7 for songwriting, and recording. It's very well recorded, but just because of me personally, that really takes me out of the song whenever an artist does something like that. So I'll probably have to give it like a 6 for that recording. The sixth track on the album is called Whole Lotta Woman, and this is the first track that she's actually helped write. It was written by Kelly Clarkson, Jesse Carvinen, Denicia Blue June Andrews, Brittany Chai Coney, Evan Barnes Jr., and Jesse Shatkin. This song is... You can tell how much fun she's having with this song. It's another empowering song about a woman who knows who she is and what she's worth, kind of drawing on the same message as a previous song on this album, but it's just that same empowerment song that she's famous for, but it draws heavily on her southern roots, obviously. She's talking about Texas, you're talking about sweet tea, things like that, just the classic southern things that you picture when you think of the South. I don't know why, whenever I hear this song, I just am like picturing her as a waitress talking to a customer, like, and saying this song to them. I don't know why that always comes up in my head. Maybe because she's mentioning like honey, iced tea, sugar, whatever. I don't know why that makes me picture that, but I think it's so funny. You can just tell how much fun she's having with this song and how much she enjoys singing it. It's really fun. The background singers really emphasize all the lyrics and really uplift her vocals and help her out a lot, and make it just so much more fun. Almost like a, what is it called? Like an anthem for like young women. Again, telling them to know, or leading by example, saying, I know what I'm worth and I know I'm good, and I know what I deserve, so I'm going to take it. And I love that message. It's not tired for me at all. I mean, I guess some people might say it's overdone, but I just think I love the message, and she does it in such a great way. It's a very well written song. Again, it's pretty interesting. It's a little bit lengthy. It is it's only like 3 minutes, which is, I guess, average, but for some reason it feels long, which might be a bad thing, but it stays interesting again throughout all of it because she does fun things with her vocals to make it interesting and different, even if she's singing the same lyrics over and over again. So for songwriting, I'll probably give it probably a 7. It's or 7.5. I'll get a 7.5 because I did enjoy it better than the past couple tracks. And for recording, I'll definitely give it like a solid 8 because she is really good with her vocals. I love the background singers. It just elevates everything and makes it so fun and catchy. The 7th track on the album is called Medicine, and it was written by Mick Schultz and Jessica Karpov. It's a really, really fun song about leaving someone because they're not good for you. Again, harkens back to some previous messages she's talked about. Same thread through the whole album, I guess. But it's got a really strong R&B feel here. And it's just such a fun, groovy song. And it's really different than, I think, a lot of the previous tracks. So it kind of starts getting into a different feel for the album and gives it a different texture. Especially the second part of that chorus when she goes, "So watch out," and leads into that whole part. I'm not going to sing because I don't want to put you through that damage. But when you listen to it, it's just like when she goes into the second part of that chorus, you're like, yeah, like, get it. This is awesome. It's just so fun and so interesting. I love the feel of this album. I would probably say for songwriting, I would give it a solid 7, and for recording, just because it's so fun and groovy and gives it such a fun, different feel, I would probably give it like an 8.5. The 8th track on the album is called Cruel, and it was written by Andre Davidson, Sean Davidson, Jessica Karpov, and Pat Linen. It's about someone in a relationship and how they're putting in a bunch of effort and the other person just isn't putting any effort into the relationship. It kind of talks about gaslighting a little bit, I think, about second guessing yourself because they're making you feel crazy almost. Like when she says, "Am I being jealous? Are you being selfish?" Selfish, not shellfish. Like second guessing yourself because it's like, well, am I actually the one being crazy or are you being actually wrong here? Again, don't be cruel. Like there's no reason to be acting rude and not putting any effort in if you actually loved me. I think it's a good message. I really like the songwriting here. She's got some really fun vocal stylings in here. It's slowed down. Love that belted note at the end. I think it just like really wraps up the whole song nicely and then fades out after that. But again, during that, for some reason, she has that weird thing that she's done before that I talked about briefly, where as she's belting, another track of her is still singing the chorus. I just don't like that for some reason. It just like makes my skin like, oh, like why are you doing that? It's like taking away from everything. It's fine if like your background singers or whatever are singing it, but like if you're singing two different things at once, it just seems so weird to me. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to like knock it down a little bit again for that. But for songwriting, I'll probably give it a solid 7. And for recording, I do really like the recording. It's a nice, slowed down, groovy song. But because of that weird belts, two tracks going at once of her singing, I'm gonna have to probably give it like a 7 for recording as well. The 9th track on the album is called Didn't I, and it was written by the two Davidsons, Audra May and Katie Perlman. It's a song about someone giving everything to someone and then not that person not being grateful, about that person playing games with them, being nice one second, mean the other. The message follows nicely from the previous song, Cruel, kind of continuing that same feel, the progression of the relationship, almost as you will. I don't love the song. For me, it's a filler song. She could have cut it from the album. I think it doesn't give the album anything different. It kind of almost has the same feel of Meaning of Life for me. The triplets in the song kind of give me that same feel that reminds me of Meaning of Life, which I don't love to be reminded of another song in the album from a different track. It's just like, again, makes me think, oh, probably didn't need this on the album then, or give it a different feel. I don't know. So for that reason, and okay, the other thing is I don't really like the writing either. It's just kind of, I don't know. At this point, it's a little tired for me. Didn't I Give You Everything? Kind of like annoying almost, which doesn't carry the same message as the rest of the album, which is very empowered and being the better person and knowing what you're worth. And this is kind of like, oh, what, you think you're better than me? Like, didn't I give you everything? Why aren't you giving me everything? And like, which I guess everyone has those moments, but I just, for me, it just didn't give the song anything different, and it kind of took away from the message of the album and the kind of the feeling of the whole album. So for that reason, honestly, I'll probably give the writing like a 5 and recording probably 5 too. I just didn't enjoy it. It was like an okay song. Like, okay. Nothing special. It wasn't bad by any means. It just was like, whatever. Next. The 10th track on the album is called Would You Call That Love? And it was written by Kelly Clarkson and Greg Kurstin. It's got a definite pop soul feel to it. It's about reflecting on a relationship and wondering if they were actually in love with you in that moment. Kind of, again, carries a little bit of the feel from Didn't I? That was a little like, kind of like almost mad at someone for the relationship and kind of feeling a little bit like happy that they're probably not in a great place at the moment, which I think we all have felt that emotion, but it's got it's a little bit more interesting of a message than Didn't I, and it's got a lot better feel and more fun song and more interesting song in my opinion. The songwriting is way better for sure. It's got a nice, follows the same kind of rhythm of the chorus, constantly asking questions, but in kind of a rhetorical question kind of way, and then reflecting on how that person is doing now after the relationship is over and seeing how that they're not in a good place and you are, and kind of being happy about that, even though they're the one that caused the relationship to crumble, which again is a very relatable message. This is probably the most poppy song on the album, but it's still got a definite soul root in it. It's fun, it's very relatable, and yeah, it's just a good song, solid good song. So for songwriting, I'll probably give it a 7, and recording, I don't know, maybe like I'll give it a 7 as well. It was a good song. The 11th track on the album is called I Don't Think About You and is written by the two Davidsons, Michael Pollack and Jessica Karpov. The song is the first ballad on the album, the first true ballad. It's a really sad song, or sad feeling song about finally being able to move on from a relationship and becoming a better person because of it. It's got a very somber feel, but almost like a hopeful tone to it as well. That's like you're sad about you're still sad from the relationship, but you're finally like becoming a better person and finally starting to move on and starting to feel hope again. I think it's a really well-written song, first of all. It's very well-written. Kind of moves things along very logically, starting with a bit sad and starting to get more and more hopeful towards the end as it goes through. Vocally, it's definitely got great vocals there. It's got a nice chorus of background singers that kind of give it a real nice feel that it's like almost as if like her friends are helping her through it as well. The background singers being the friends helping her through it, singing with her, not just emphasizing her lyrics as she's singing, not just singing in response to her vocals, if that makes sense, which I think is a really nice touch to it. So it's because it's never just one person that's moving on from a relationship. It's that person is helped along through it with other people's help almost every single time. And yeah, obviously Kelly's got great vocals in this. She's got a really good way of doing ballads. Side note, if you've never seen Piece of Me, the American Idol live version, I definitely recommend it. That just shows how good she is at evoking emotion through ballads and somber songs, and this is no exception. She does a great job with it. So for that reason, I'll probably give it songwriting probably 7.5, and then recording, I'll give it probably a 7.5 as well. The 12th track on the album is called Slow Dance, written by Nick Ruth, Amy Cooney, and Molly Kestner. And this kind of returns to the feel of confidence and empowered woman. It's definitely an obviously passionate, love, sexy song. I think like the first like sexy, slow down, passionate song she's ever done before, honestly. That wasn't a cover. And it's just about finding someone you connect with and wanting to take them home. You got that spark between you and kind of like taking control of the situation because they might be a little nervous. It's really, she just does so well with this. Like, I'm honestly so impressed that she's able to like portray those like emotions, because she's usually like a family friendly, definitely a family friendly artist, I would say. But this is the first one that's kind of like almost risque, sort of, but in a also sort of like an innocent way, because instead of talking about sex, just she's talking about slow dance. But we all know what she's really talking about. I really like the lyrics are good, but I think her vocals are really what make this song fun and different. She she knows when to like really put forth her powerful voice, and really be center stage, and then when to kind of back it off and kind of almost whisper like you're whispering in someone's ear or something like that, and give it that fun different texture, that makes it special. So for songwriting, I'll probably give it like a 6.5, but or no, I'll give it a 7. And then for recording, definitely like an 8 for sure. It's a really well recorded song. The 13th track on the album is called Don't You Pretend, written by Kelly Clarkson, Jesse Shatkin, and Maureen Mazzella McDonald. It's a nice follow-up from Slow Dance. It's about that person, or knowing that person across the room wants them and wants them to be confident and upfront about it instead of playing games. She's just like, either be upfront and like go after me, or don't do anything because I'm not interested in doing this in between weird thing. Again, carrying that confident, learned, mature viewpoint and confidence that's like, I don't want to deal with all the crap. Like, let's either do this or let's not. It's a well-written song, I would say. Nothing special. Again, giving that clear message of cut the crap, I'm over it. But in kind of a way that isn't annoying or kind of bitchy in a way. She kind of gets, in my opinion, she kind of gets a little carried away with the vocals at the end. She usually doesn't, but I feel like in this song, she kind of does just go off the rails. Not off the rails, but like, because it's not crazy, but it's just like a little too much at the end of her, like belting every single note for like 30 seconds straight. And it does that, again, weird thing where she's still singing while she's also singing something else that I just don't care for. So for that reason, I'll probably give the recording probably like a 6, and the writing a 6 as well. I just didn't love this song. It was okay. The last track on the album, track 14, is called Go High, and it was written again by Kelly Clarkson, Jesse Shatkin, and Maureen Mazzella McDonald. It's a song about fatigue from having to be the better person constantly, calling back from Michelle Obama's quote, when they go low, we go high. It's got a weird electro pop feel with but also like soul mixed in it at the same time. This song missed the mark for me. It was definitely, I feel like, a risk for the album that they were hoping would pay off, but it just didn't fit for me. It's something that I always worry about with these empowerment songs that Kelly's famous for, that a lot of other artists do. Beyonce does a lot of them as well. That always runs the risk of being a little too preachy, and I feel like this one is definitely a little too preachy, which again just makes me like a little wary of it. That's like, I don't really love this song. I just don't love it, and I feel like it doesn't really show off her vocals well. I don't love the recording. It's not fun or interesting or catchy. It's just a little like, okay, we get it. I like the message. It's just done in a way I wish it was done better. So for Songwriting, honestly, probably like a 4. I really didn't like it. And recording, probably a 5. It's an interesting, I guess, being generous, it's an interesting stylistic recording. It's just not something I particularly enjoy. Maybe other people do. I'm sure someone out there loves it, but just not for me. So definitely 5 for recording. So, talking a little bit about the overall album, obviously it's got the theme of the album is interpersonal connections in life. It's centered on love and living in the moment and relationships. Um, I think it definitely hit that very well. It unfortunately has several tracks that I was not a fan of. Definitely, I think it needs to be cut out a couple of them just for brevity's sake. The editing could have been a lot better. Because there's definitely gold in this album. This album has a lot of wonderful, really great songs. The first half of the album, I would say, is spectacular. Second half is definitely not as strong. I would definitely cut Didn't I and Go High. Maybe cut Don't Pretend. I didn't love that song. Or just re-record in a different way for me. It just didn't really add anything spectacular to the album. As far as rearranging it goes, I would maybe move Cruel, Would You Call That Love, and I Don't Think About You to the top of the album. Kind of start the album off and have a slow progression of uh, character development almost, where they start out a little shaky and getting through a relationship and then learning from it and becoming a confident person after that. I think would give it a fun storyline. But as you guys know, I'm always a fan of that. There's definitely mini stories in here. As I said previously, Slow Dance into Don't You Pretend is a good story. Um, Almost like short stories within like a longer book, you could almost say. Love So Soft into Heat. Um, yeah, again, just another short story there. Uh, yeah, I think there's definitely, like I said, gold in here. It just could have, for me, used a little bit of editing and rearranging to make me maybe do a better story. I don't know how I would want it to end. Um, I don't know, but I'm also, it's hard for me to picture a story for a song or an album that's not country related because the stories aren't as clear for me. Um, because I feel like in country, the star is usually the songwriting and storytelling, whereas other genres, that's not the focus. Although Kelly usually does have a strong storytelling appeal to her albums, but as far as the overall album goes, it really pains me to say, but probably overall I would give it like a 6.5. It Had it just been the first half, or they made those cuts of Didn't I and Go High, I probably would have gotten like an 8. But like, I just can't forgive a couple of those songs. It just didn't make any sense. The feel was weird. It kind of like shifted the whole feel of the album, which was really unfortunate because I do think it's a really great album aside from a couple of those things. So then, averaging out the score for the songwriting, it comes out to a 6.6, and averaging out the songwriting, or no, not songwriting, recording, I'd give it a 7.2. So, totaling that up, that gives it a total of 20.3, which unfortunately, again, does not beat out Jolene, the current reigning record of the year. Um, yeah, I mean, I had high hopes for this album. I thought it would be higher, maybe 22, 21. It's close to 21, but again, I think it really just had some key songs that brought it down, unfortunately. Obviously, I recommend to go listen to it again. Listen and let me know what your thoughts are. Did it make you think about it a different way? Was I wrong about anything? Feel free to let me know in a review, 5-star review, please. Wherever you're listening to the podcast, you can go ahead and give it a review there. Or if you'd like to reach out on Instagram, the Instagram handle is Record of the Ear Podcast. That's ear without the Y. Yeah, let me know your thoughts and feelings and what you did and didn't like. Did you like Go High? Did you like Didn't I? Oh, they kind of rhyme. Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. However, the first couple, or for the first half of the album, loved it. Definitely loved those singles. I think the singles were a great choice. Yeah, just let me know your thoughts. And in the meantime, I will see you next week. Have a great week. Bye.